My father was in the Air Force, and as such we had to move around to different states every few years, and Star Wars was that constant that helped me meet new people when I would move to a strange city in a strange state back in the days before email and texting and Skyping and all that. When you moved to another place, you left all your friends behind and had to make whole new friends, and Star Wars was one of those common experiences that allowed me to meet new people and connect, make an instant connection with them and form lasting friendships.
And JJ, I feel good about. I just hope that the filmmakers that come after, that do these spin-off movies, aren't just looking at it like, oh, he just did Fast 8, now he's going to go do it.
I completely agree, and that's where we're counting on Disney.
You better prove your credentials, and you better be fucking amazing if you're going to get Star Wars.
But you also have Kathleen Kennedy there to protect, to ensure quality control. Frankly, I feel a lot more comfortable with Kathleen Kennedy making those decisions than George Lucas. I think she understands the franchise better than him. And
I'll cut off your pinky, and you can do the movie. And if the person's like, what are you, crazy? What if you're like, go for it?
Yeah, I know. If it's Michael Bay's Han Solo, scoundrel, we're in trouble. But the thing is, look, I remember I was with Dave Williams, the editor of this magazine, at Chandara, when I was checking, Hollywood Reporter that day, and it was like Lucasfilm acquired by Disney, and on my face, Dave's like, is something wrong? Is someone die? I'm like, no, this is the greatest news ever. And it's like, what? And it's like, I said, Disney bought Lucas, and it was like, and they're gonna do new Star Wars movies, and it was shocking. I was amazed. I never thought that would ever happen. I thought Star Wars was, at least the movie side of it was done. Maybe they do this TV series one day. But that, and it's just the one thing you gotta remember is Lucas, admittedly very rich, he was still an independent producer. He struggled to make these movies. Anybody who's read Empire Strikes Back, but they know how many times did that almost go down? And that was the sequel to the most successful movie of all time. Even when he was doing the prequels, for all intents and purposes, he was doing them on the cheap. When you got Disney now, you have the money that you need, and you shouldn't be counting pennies, which doesn't ensure quality, of course.
Now, Disney just spent $300 million on a Lone Ranger movie.
Yeah, right, exactly.
He spent what, $100 million on The Phantom Menace?
It was 120?
$500 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing it out of his own pocket, there's a frugality to it. With those floodgates open, I'm not going to totally open it, because they don't need to, and I think they're going to be smart about it. But I think there are going to be some amazing worlds and sights and visuals.
I completely agree, which opens the next question. And I'm definitely the contrarian on this. I'm sure you're going to say I'm out of my fucking mind, which is okay. I can take it. But, when they announced the new trilogy, which I'm thrilled about, Michael Arndt thrilled about it, Lawrence Kasdan over the moon about it, Simon Kinberg, fine, whatever. But the thing that I am disappointed in, which I'm apparently the only one on the planet who is when I heard that Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher were coming back. To me, I felt like the Star Wars universe is so rich that I want to explore new parts of it. I always hated in Jedi that it was the Death Star 2. I'm like, the Star Wars universe is so great. We don't need to do the Death Star. The Death Star was great the first time. Why are we building another Death Star? And they did it in Al Williamson's comic strip too, so it was even worse. But, and then, with the prequels for me also, that it was so incestuous. It was so much about, leading up to episodes 4, 5, and 6, and it didn't establish its own worlds. That we're back on Tatooine, that we're back on a lot of these planets. So for me, I would love to see a new trilogy that sort of boldly goes, to steal a phrase from another franchise, and that introduces characters I love as much as Han Solo, that I love as much as Luke Skywalker, I love as much as Princess Leia, and new worlds and a whole new plot and a whole new story. Because to me, the Empire has fallen, the Rebels, so there's a whole new story. And clearly I'm in the minority on this, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about sort of the return of these beloved characters, and maybe a little bit about what you'd like to see in this new trilogy.
I tend to agree that there are probably going to be more supporting characters, and we will have a new generation of new characters that will be the primary focus of those stories.
There's going to be younger.
Yeah. You're not going to do a bunch of septuagenarians.
No way. Spend money on that.
So we'll get that new generation of characters, and as you also mentioned, these spin-off stories, these one-offs are talking about doing, whether it's a a Boba Fett story or a Yoda story.
Young Lando.
Some original character.
Grando.
Grando's father, played by Gregory Hart.
Which is a real casting rumor.
That was a big prequel rumor back in 1997 or 8. Grando.
Grando. See, we didn't get to see that. It's not too late. Gregory Hines is still alive.
I don't want to see stars. I don't want to see Ryan Gosling.
Oh, I totally
Exactly.
agree.
Get that shit out of there. What? It shouldn't even be on the table.
I mean, what was great were who were the biggest stars in Stars?
Like he's
Peter
awesome,
Cushing
but he doesn't belong
and,
in
and,
this.
and Alec Guinness, who are like 9 zillion years old. That's what you need in these new
You can't have
movies.
that baggage of movie
You
stars.
have like Liam Neeson, you know, a very experienced actor,
Mhm.
brought a lot of weight, organic, grounded quality to it. I mean, you can augment with that, but I don't want to see the lead characters
Totally.
like even Hayden Christensen came out of nowhere. Natalie Portman was a relatively new face. Mark Hamill was a fresh face.
You need like an Ashley Eckstein.
Now she's so steeped in the universe. Though. She's like a super veteran.
I don't know. You know, I'm just excited. I hope what they do have in the new movie is a really strong, awesome female character. I think what George Lucas decided to do with Ahsoka Tano in the Clone Wars, you know, first of all, it was shocking that Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan. But then it was even more shocking that she was a girl. And, you know, she was the first female Jedi that was a lead in the Star Wars universe. And I think they did an amazing job with her. And not only just her, but so many of the other strong female characters in the Clone Wars. And in a day and age where now you have the Hunger Games and characters like Katniss Everdeen and so many strong female characters. And I mean, it's a fact. Like, the reason my company, Her Universe, exists is that pretty much close to half of all Star Wars fans are women. I mean, the hardest statistic, last time I heard it, was like, you know, 65-45. Or no, I'm sorry, 55-45. And it's literally, I would say, they don't have a recent stat, but after Clone Wars, I would say it's closer to 50-50. And I think the female fans really are yearning for a really, really strong female character.
You know, this is a really good point because, you know, a lot of people say, oh, Alien was the first strong female protagonist with Ripley. But if you look at Carrie Fisher in Star Wars, when she gets rescued, she takes command immediately. She cuts Luke Skywalker down the side, and when she says, get this big walking carpet out from in front of me to Chewbacca.
You came here to that.
I mean,
It opens with her putting her neck on the line, stealing plans, and basically standing up to
Line
the
to
greatest hero in the
target.
galaxy.
Oh, no, you're exactly right. And please don't take that. I mean, no disrespect to
no,
Princess
no,
Leia,
no.
because...
No, not at all. I'm saying you make a good point.
Yeah, okay, because
Yeah.
we
It
made a
worked
shirt
great,
that
yeah.
said self-rescuing Princess Leia. I admire Princess Leia, and I think she set the standard for all of these strong female characters, and I hope that continues.
You know what got me so excited this morning? I woke up, the first email I saw was a longtime friend from back in New York. Her and her husband are living in Singapore. And they sent me a picture of their daughter, all excited, dressed like Princess Leia, like she hasn't even seen the movies, and now we're throwing her a Star Wars birthday party
That's awesome.
in Singapore.
That's cool.
And they're and the girl was losing her mind in this picture. And I was like, there's a little girl dressed as Princess Leia. She doesn't even know the movies, but something about the character pulled her in. She was hooked before she'd even like seen the movies. It was just like, there's the next generation already.
well, I'll tell you this, Chris Gossett.
Yes, sir. Yes,
For
sir.
me, I just hope, and I have very high hopes for JJ. I think JJ and Berkey are very smart producers. I think the writers are great. I hope that they remember the important lesson of Star Wars, which is if you're going to do Tatooine, you go to Tunisia. You don't do CGI. I just hope they don't lean too heavily on the fact that because computers can do anything, they use them for anything. Because the great success of Star Wars to me was filming on locations, and a lot of that was lost in the prequels. You know, where there are too many CG environments, and they look like that. And the reality of what I was seeing on screen sorts of become lost. And I think that's why the stuff in Phantom Menace shot in Italy is some of the better stuff because it's real. And I hope that the new movies, and look, Starship Troopers is a movie that combines miniatures and CGI brilliantly. I'd love to see some continued use of miniatures in addition to CG to give it that real texture that Star Wars has always had to me.
You know, you can't green screen. You can't green screen the power of having Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill in that film. One of my favorite parts, if not the favorite part of JJ's Trek, was Nimoy. Having him there and the way he was, the presence he brought to the film.
The
to
gravitas.
Me, the gravitas he brought to the film, and it was poetry. And I think that's why I'm excited about having the originals there. What a wonderful way to save
Good
the
job.
Great.
It actually is good. because, you know, he was so committed to something else, and
By
he
having
had
the
the question,
questions.
can I really do both?
Hit all the right notes.
It's gotta be intimidating. You don't wanna be the guy who screwed up Star Wars. You know, you don't wanna be the guy who buried the franchise.
Well, that's why so many people turned down George's request to direct the prequels. They
Because-
didn't want, you know, they felt that they wouldn't get any of the credit if they succeeded, they thought they would get all the blame if they failed.
I mean, there's such a high bar, you know, to doing this, you know, and to doing what Disney wants with it, because you have to feed the beast, as we talked about. It's not just making great movies, but creating a hunger for new merchandise, new theme park attractions, you know.
That won't be too hard.
If they were making Empire now, do you think they'd let Yoda be a shriveled little green guy? Or do you think they'd go cast some famous?
I think they would. I think they would, because I think Star Wars is about
I don't know,
weird
you're
little
right,
characters.
you're right. It's just something, those little things I wonder about, the risks that George took, the bold choices. I just hope there is still the
They wouldn't let him be a
appetite for
puppet.
bold.
They
Yeah.
wouldn't let him be a puppet. And I think
Why are we doing this? Why don't we just go get
half
like,
the Dagobah scenes would have been on the cutting room floor. I think the
let's
magic
just
tree
get
would have been
Jeff
gone.
Daniels, and he's gonna be an old guy and talk funny in the woods. You know what I mean? Like, why are we doing that? So I don't know, but I hope that they make unique, bold choices. Because if you were to predict the way Star Wars went, and we all tried to, and the prequels ended up with something very different from what was in our head versus what was in George's head. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see what was in George's head for these next 3 movies versus what's even in our head, knowing where we think Han. And there's this expanded universe, which is a whole other discussion, which is about to, like, they're about to blow it up like North Korea. They're like, it's all about to go away, and it has to, because they need a clean slate in order to, you can't put JJ in a box or Kathleen Kennedy and say, all right, you have to look at this one novel, Vector Prime, and this thing happens to Chewbacca. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that.
Or that IG-88 held the consciousnness of the Death
Wait,
Star.
IG-88 A, B, C, or D.
Yeah.
And then there's like Greedo, and there's Greedo the Lesser. What's the other guy?
Right.
But we do know Greedo fired first, right? Do we have any dissenters? I mean,
Greedo fired
Harrison,
only.
hand fired
You know, in the
first.
Blu-rays, it's another version of it. And I think for the 3D.
No, in
there's
the
another
Blu-ray,
version
they
of it.
fire at the same time, right?
There's another
Yeah.
version of it for the 3D that was supposed to come.
Oh, they were changing it again. See, I'm just disappointed that there's not gonna be a chance, at least for the foreseeable future, to see Star Wars in a theater again. That's disappointing.
Yeah.
It's disappointing they killed the 3D re-releases. Now, of course, it's my feeling, had they put 4, 5, and 6 out first, the grosses would have been a lot higher than if they had led with Phantom Menace, but.
Well, you could never put out 4, 5, and 6 and then be like, oh, and by the way, here's 1, 2, and 3. What they should have done was do a truncated release for 1, 2, and 3 all together, and you could see them.
Yeah,
And
well,
then
that would have worked too.
you wouldn't, yeah, but you know what I mean?
It's like what they did with the special editions, where in February, Star Wars came out, then in March, Empire, and then Jedi came out, and I think the month after they showed the 3 of
You
them
want to be the
together.
person that goes in there and is like, George, what we're going to do is, we're not going to treat them the same. Who's going to say that?
Well, he's still that's the problem. I mean, he's still convinced that they're good
But
movies,
for him,
and they
I look
protected
at
him.
it as one big 13-hour movie. That's the way I
One big
look at it.
miniseries.
Yeah, it's one big Skywalker story. It's a.
You know, you can love The Ring and not love every act of The Ring. You know, you can love an opera and say, oh, I love this part of the opera, but I don't necessarily like the adagio.
I just don't like the
Yeah.
singing.
I agree that you don't have to like it, but I do think you have to respect it and understand it. And the next generation of people that are trusted to bring this to life better understand the story that George mapped out, the mythology, and that is the crux of everything you bring to life. You can't just say, I don't like the prequels, I'm gonna forget they existed.
I don't think
And there is an
that'll
ego, the
happen.
wrong filmmaker with the wrong ego is going to go in there and think, fuck what he did.
I think JJ is what's great about JJ, like you said, he grew up on this. He's tremendously respectful. You know, you see the way that he's worked with Spielberg, and a lot of
Right
people
guy.
don't even realize that
Yeah.
he was the one who restored Spielberg's
But
Super
an
8
Amblin
movies
film,
as a kid. Yeah,
the Super 8 was an Amblin film.
Yeah, yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so it just seems like all the pieces are sort of falling into place, and it'll be interesting in a couple of years, sitting around talking about this new trilogy, what everybody will be saying, what they'll love about it, what they won't like about it, because one thing we are sure of, it's not going to please everyone. It never will, never can.
That's right.
And that's what makes it so
Should we
much
get some
fun.
droids? We'll get the Falcon probably. We'll get some Chewbacca maybe. It's a lot of good
But
stuff.
Peter Mayhew, they didn't announce
And
him
John
coming back.
Williams. Well, I think no, but I think they have to get that core, the Trinity right, and then they're going to expand everything out. I think you'll see probably Anthony Daniels and all those people.
I would certainly expect so. Because, I mean, after all,
And John Williams
they'd always
wants to come
said,
back.
God willing, If it's Michael Giacchino, who I love, I'd be very upset. It has to be John
Well, Michael
Williams.
Giacchino did Star Tours.
Yeah, I'd be
So,
very
you know,
upset.
he-
It gotta be Williams.
But you want
Star
guys
Wars,
like
it gotta be
Ben
Williams.
Burtt, Matthew Wood, who
Absolutely.
did the special edition.
Well, and Ben Burtt worked on
Big
Star
Wars.
Trek, so I think it's
And
inevitable.
Ben and Matthew Star Trek, they did Super 8. You want, and they already worked with JJ, you want that same team of people back on Star Wars.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, you know, we'll see. Let's wrap up by just saying favorite Star Wars character and favorite Star Wars movie.
Oh, don't start with me, start with Kyle.
Let's start with Kyle. Favorite character and favorite movie?
Ben Quaterneros.
Who the hell is that?
He's a Toon Pond racer.
He's a Toon? Oh, he's a pod racer.
He's a Toon. for the
Wrong
Planet
franchise,
Fun.
okay.
No, he's actually my least favorite character, and now he's become my favorite, and I got Hasbro to make an action figure out of him.
It's pretty
Because he's the
impressive.
most poorly designed character ever. He looks like a California raisin with really long arms.
Oh, I know who that is.
It's terrible.
Okay.
But now I love him. But no, I love Yoda. Yoda is probably, I don't know, it's Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon. They're just badasses. I love Qui-Gon. I mean, really, in mythology's Qui-Gon's really key. But and I just favorite movie.
Okay, the Raisin and Oscar Schindler. Gotcha.
I love. It's hard to pick one. I mean, it changes all the time. Probably Empire is a perfect film in terms of filmmaking, and it's part of the Star Wars
Right.
lexicon. So I'd have to go there. But I think I just look at it as one big thing. That's my favorite.
Cool. Steve?
Gosh, you know, Kyle already picked Yoda, but I like Yoda as well.
You can repeat.
But you know, Han Solo. I've always loved Han Solo, and I gotta say my favorite is the first Star Wars, which will always be Star Wars to me. I know it's A New Hope now, but I grew up. It was
Right.
Star Wars. It was Episode 4, because to me that was the thing that started it all. It's a complete self-contained story, beginning, middle, end, and introduced all these concepts that we love that became the core of
Yeah.
the universe.
Yeah, true. Not the holiday special? Go ahead. Ashley?
I like R2-D2. I said it earlier. He's my favorite. And I like Empire Strikes Back. I mean, I am a romantic. I love that I love you. I know seeing the girl finally gets the guy. I just, that's my favorite.
Yeah, it's Han Solo, definitely. I remember that first day that I talked about earlier, when we came out of the theater, my mom said, she led me with this. She's like, honey, didn't you really like Luke Skywalker? Don't you want to be like Luke Skywalker? And I'm all, nah, Han Solo, Mom.
And she knew she was in for trouble the rest of her life.
See, I always felt like Han Solo is the guy I wanted to be, but Luke Skywalker was the guy I was.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I completely agree with your argument. You know, I find it hard to say Empire Strikes Back because Star Wars is completely self-contained. If there'd never been another movie, it would have been the perfect movie. You know, I mean, that and Annie Hall, what a year, oh my God. But
Empire can only be
and
what it
Star
was
Wars.
because of Star Wars.
yeah, so I mean, I
But
like
it's
to
such
say
a beautifully
Empire.
made film.
It really, it's a better made film,
Yeah.
but Star Wars is just brilliant in so
Yeah.
many ways. So it's a toss-up between the two of them.
It's hard.
And I have to go with Yoda also. I love that little
That little
son
Muppet.
of a bitch, that little Muppet. Yoda is awesome. He's awesome. But R2 is great too, and Han Solo's great. I mean, you know.
Coming from a long line of criminals, I have to like Han Solo. And Star Wars is my favorite as well.
Yeah.
Disney
The
do it
first
right.
one.
All those characters can be back.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. But you know, I loved Darth Vader until Jedi. Like, I hated the fact when he turned good. I hated it. So, but boy, I loved Darth Vader too when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And the Imperial March, one of the greatest music cues ever written for a movie. So, anyway, thank you everyone. This was great. It was great to have you here for the first Geek Star Wars Roundtable. And boy, let's just hope the next trilogy, The Force, is still with us. Oh God, I hate the puns. They're starting already. I hope they're great movies. So thank you, and we'll continue the discussion at some future point in time.
Right.
Yeah, what a wrap up. Wow, that was dynamic.